me like to was all of us here have simply inherited an existing problem, as we all know, which went many, many years ago. Even though case long, Mr. Colin Grand Chief, founding Prime Minister, not founding father, as because Landilol, Tumulumlo Meet and the Pablo Meet, they were also founding fathers of this country. They were also among those who pushed for independence and fought with him. So I simply call him the founding Prime Minister and not the founding father, because there were many other fathers that is in the country. It's a situation in Bougainville. When I was growing up in the early 1970s, story when come was there were a number of our Bougainville brothers who had an accident in Goroka. And that triggered what was already an existing problem was leader Imilo region Totopinis. It triggered an existing problem. And Tamolan Imilo Constitutional Planning Committee, only Glassim, only consultant right throughout the country. The Constitutional Planning Committee took 2 years to visit every corner of this country and came up with that document, which was then converted into the constitution of our country. No doubt in the minds of those founding fathers, issue long Bougainville now, not only the issue of Bougainville too, issue of Eastern Britain about Talgun Association too, part of lab. The founding fathers knew about it, and yet in their wisdom, they set about providing an option for decentralization. Only clear law won him up this country by go. These were men of wisdom. If you take that example of the province where I come from, population the province have more than 400,000 people. That is more than the population of one of those small Pacific Island countries. We have our own cultures. Look at our man person. We are a passive society compared to the others. Unless I respect long our man person. Leadership, respect the leaders. And we can easily say, well, we can also become independent. Is there anything stopping us? There are so many landlocked smaller countries in Europe who are in the situation like Email Islands province too. We have our own cultures and languages. So we are not a very easy country to govern. So Imilo, both sides of the parliament, suppose apart from our brothers and sisters from the region, I don't think we should be emotional. Some of you on the other side, just only 4 months ago, you were talking against Bougainville. That I remember Imilong, our province, the Honorable Larore went and made some comment, now we're being hypocritical. We must lose emotional issue now, work out how to come up with a solution. All land women all sing out now. Now, as we all know, this process that all you work in land, it was part of the peace monitoring agreement. Now, when I was minister under our Grand Chief, Michael Somari, I was appointed on the Bougainville Steering Committee, and the late Sir Peter Bada was the chairman. And I remember visiting Buka, and when we went inside that office, we had this very huge bearded fellow. Instead of greeting us, he punched the table and he said, "Sir Peter, where's my money?" I later realized that he was Joseph Kabui. I was also part of the team that went to Arawa when the peace monitoring group from New Zealand and Australia withdrew. And I can tell you, leaders here, online long Bougainville, thinking them God look him now. We never completed the process because it was raining very heavily. Nature did not favor us. But that alone cannot be a determining factor. We are a democracy. Majority will always prevail. Now, time or land me, all he said in the Constitution, and when they set the framework for our country, they were cognizant and they were aware of those simmering differences that were, arising below the surface. So, in their own wisdom, they deliberately framed the Constitution in such a way that, what the provision of the Constitution were, by recognizing, by empowering the Parliament, law, giving independence law, one part of our country. Unless we all resolve to amend the Constitution. This is the problem of 1988 and 1989. The late Sir Rabin Amali was the Prime Minister. Time lo Samara stop, Sir Julius Sen stop. I wish you were here now to even guide us too. Time Sir Julius stopped, Wing TM stopped, and even Bill Skate, the late Bill Skate, went there, and he was welcomed out there. Peter O'Neill been stopped. Now Honorable Marabe stopped. All of these prime ministers never promised the people of Bougainville independence. And I stand to be corrected on this. None of them ever promised. They were cognizant of the fact of the complexities surrounding our country and the way our founding fathers brought this country to independence. And as far as I can recall, none of those prime ministers failed to allocate funding apart from those 10 years our people were in isolation. None of them. None of the members of the parliament also failed our people. We all recognize, they did and we still recognize that this is a process that all of us have to go through. And what we are confronted now is the outcome of an agreed process. The ones who were before us agreed that our people will be allowed that opportunity to go for a referendum and for the results of that referendum to be tabled in this parliament before us. Unfortunately for us, we were not part of the process. We are now being asked to make very, very important decisions concerning the future of this country. And we must always remember this, and we must always make our decisions based on process and based on our personal beliefs. We're all leaders here. We will, of course, when our good Minister of Bougainville Affairs clears the process, I have not come across any situation where our good minister has deliberately delayed this process. He has taken this process to Cabinet. Our Prime Minister, Honorable Marabe, has supported the process. We are slowly working through a process. We have next year, no one will rush us. We will make a decision that will be long-lasting. I wouldn't want to be swayed by emotional statements on this one, apart from our brother and sister from Bougainville, who understandably are emotional. I wouldn't blame them anyway. They have a right to tell us how they feel. They represent their people, and they are true Bougainvillians. No one would ever dispute them. But at the same time, I am also a leader of my people and of this country. I must make a decision that will provide a solid foundation for my children and grandchildren for this country. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, in this government, from what I can remember, even when I was in the government of Samari, Honorable Peter O'Neill, and now the Honorable James Marabe, all those governments have recognized that we have a problem on Bougainville Island. And they have continued to fund. Not much, but in dribs and drabs. Every year, they have continued to fund. I also have friends on Bougainville Island, but some of the stories I hear are not really comforting. If I were doing over there, I would rather ask the leaders on that island, what have they done with the money we've given so far? My province also needs money too. Not one province is the only province in this country. So, if you are asking for independence, demonstrate to us that you are good in managing the money that we give as well. It cannot be one side. Yes, of course, we will eventually vote. All of us will exercise a constitutional right to vote regarding the position on our island there. But we also must be mindful of the fact that we agreed to a process and we are following that process. We have not deviated from that process. We help and we allow them to do the referendum without fear or favor. There was no influence from the national government for our people to be convinced to vote the other way. They were given the free choice to do it, and they have done the result are there. It is up to us now to either recognize them or to vote according to the way we think, having the interest of our country as a whole always at the back of our mind. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, when this matter is eventually brought to the floor of this Parliament, to the blessing of our Prime Minister and Cabinet, I will vote according to my conscience. I will not allow emotions to guide me. I will vote according to my conscience, knowing very well that it was the dream of our fathers to see this country remain a united country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.